Hello Ugandans. I'm very happy to be here and to serve alongside Dr. Monica Musenero. We'll be working together. I'm sure she'll be giving us information and I'll be sharing it with you in real time. I will try my level best to have information coming out on a regular basis as soon as information is released, and Dr. Monica is very well equipped to get such information. I'll be sharing it with you on different TV stations, radio stations, YouTube channels, maybe even on WhatsApp and all other social media spaces. I will be sharing this information with you in a timely manner. So I'm looking forward to interacting with you so that together we fight COVID out of Uganda permanently. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, wherever you are. My name is Nancy Kalembe. I'm part of the National Task Force for Communication concerning Coronavirus Disease 2019, known in short as COVID-19. Here today with me is Dr. Monica Musenero. I would like her to introduce herself so that the viewers can know who is talking to them.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Monica Musenero Masanza. I'm an epidemiologist. I specialize in fighting highly dangerous diseases. Many of you have seen me fighting Ebola, Marburg, typhoid, here in Uganda and internationally all over the world. At the moment, I'm working as the Senior Presidential Advisor on COVID, but also on all epidemics. But I'm also working with the National Fellowship of Born Again Pentecostal Churches, because the National Fellowship of Born Again Pentecostal Churches is part of the Inter-Religious Council, and the Inter-Religious Council has been requested by the Ministry of Health of Uganda to spearhead the risk communication as part of the teams that are doing risk communication to the public about how to protect themselves and what they need to do to be safe from COVID. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to be giving you the technical information concerning this virus.
So, Dr. Monica, what is corona? What is this coronavirus we are hearing? Has it existed before? Is this the first time it is appearing? What is coronavirus?
Now, coronavirus is a group of viruses. When we say coronavirus, the big family of viruses, they are called corona because when you look at them in a very powerful microscope, not the ones that you see in hospital or in schools, but we call them electronic microscopes. When you look at the virus, it looks like it has a crown. It's wearing crowns. So that's where the word corona comes from Latin, related to coronation. And when you're watching your TVs now, or every picture, you see people are drawing big things with things like crowns, this which you see on kings and what. Coronavirus itself is invisible. It's very, very tiny. You do not see it with your naked eye or with these microscopes. But these viruses have been around. It's a big group of viruses. There are coronaviruses for every species of animal and some insects. They are there. They live with them. We have some which are in birds, we have some in rats, we have some in monkeys, and each coronavirus tends to stay with its specific host. And when they are there, they don't make the animals sick, like the ones that are in the birds. Now, human beings, also being animals, we have our own coronaviruses that live with us. And usually they cause mild illness. For example, common cold, about 30% of the flu that you get frequently, sneezing, coughing, you say, I have flu, I have a cold. A number of them, 30% of them come from coronaviruses, but they're usually mild, and you adjust and we live well together. So there are many coronaviruses, and most of them don't cause very, very severe disease. There are some in children that cause diarrhea. Those ones live in the intestinal tract, and there are some that just live with us. However, like all viruses, coronaviruses keep changing. And once in a while, a virus changes enough to be able to infect another host other than its usual host. So when it has changed enough, it tries to reach another host. Sometimes it can succeed to grow or succeed to multiply in that new host, and then usually the new host kicks it out and it doesn't do much. But once in very, very rare circumstances, the virus changes enough to infect and multiply, successfully multiply in another host other than what it was. So the current coronavirus that we are talking about is originally from bats. Now this virus seems to have jumped from bats and it went to the pangolin. Pangolin is a scaly animal. We have some in Uganda here. I think there was one time when it was walking on the street somewhere, people wanted to kill it, but the wildlife people took it. They are rare, but they are here, and in China they eat them. But then it seems to have gone from the bat through another animal and then to the pangolin, and through that process of mixing, it came up with a new variety of virus that multiplies in the human being. It multiplies so fast, it successfully multiplies, and since the human beings don't know this virus, it can infect everybody. So it multiplies very fast, and it is able to grow in the respiratory system. That's our breathing system, which starts from the nose. There are parts up here called the sinuses in the skull, and then in the throat, and then also in the lungs. So this is the new type of virus. It is a coronavirus, but it's like it created a new version of itself. A new version of itself that is previously never been seen in human beings. So that is the coronavirus that we are talking about.
Okay, doctor, we have heard that if you've had a flu before, you get immunity. So if coronavirus has been with us in different forms, don't we have immunity? What is the fuss? Why is all this concern? Why all the panic? Why all the death if we have already been having coronavirus living with us?
Thank you very much, Nancy. Now, this is the big issue. And as I was explaining, I told you this virus changed enough.
Okay.
It changed because first of all, this particular coronavirus was not originally a human coronavirus. It was from animals. So the human body does not know this particular type of coronavirus, even if you've had coronavirus of a different one. And the coronaviruses are given names. Now, most coronaviruses that affect the respiratory system in the human being, they cause mild disease, they cause flu.
Okay.
But a similar virus in 2003 appeared in China and caused severe deaths. And because it caused a lot of deaths, caused severe disease, caused a really serious pneumonia, it affected China and moved very fast, especially in the northern hemisphere. So that disease was named SARS. SARS is severe acute respiratory syndrome. Now, the virus that caused that was called SARS-CoV. SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus. It was unique in that before that the coronaviruses caused mild disease. So now this one, it started also from the same pathway, from bats, then it went via other animals, and by the time it reached the human being, it was able to cause this disease. Now this new coronavirus, initially when people started dying in China, they thought it was the other one.
Yes.
It had come back But with the analysis, it was discovered that this is a totally new virus. So our bodies don't know it. Our bodies have not been exposed to it before. So 100% of Ugandans, 100% of Africans, 100% of Americans, of Chinese, of Europeans are not immune to this particular.
Basically, you're talking 100% of
the population, of the total human population, yes,
does not have
immunity.
Protection or immunity.
We are all susceptible. It doesn't care who you are. We are all of us susceptible to this virus. We don't have immunity apart from your own body or immunity which protects you, which is, we call it non-specific immunity. We do not have immunity to this virus.
Okay, we'll talk about immunity more in detail,
yes,
because we need to understand more how we gain, if it is possible to boost our personal immunity. But before we go there, I would like us to go through the basics so that everybody understands the basic information. So my next question is, how does this virus spread?
Yes, thank you. And how the virus spreads is one of the biggest, the second biggest concern. The first concern is that the entire global population, apart from those who have recovered now in the places where it has been, those who have been exposed, is susceptible. There is no immunity. When we talk about Uganda, the entire population is susceptible. So everybody, so this disease can cause everybody to fall sick at a go. The second reason is how the virus spreads. The first coronavirus, which they call SARS-CoV-1, which was the first one of 2003. Now this one has been called SARS-CoV-2. SARS coronavirus 2, because it resembles the other one but is different. So the name of the virus is SARS-CoV-2, and then the disease this one causes is called coronavirus disease. That's the abbreviation COVID. Coronavirus disease. That is the syndrome it causes, because the disease it causes, because it is different from the other one, the first one. Now this virus is able to affect the upper respiratory system. By upper respiratory system we mean the nose, the sinuses which connect to the nose, and then the throat which takes in the air. It's able to colonize that part. The other one did not multiply very much in the upper respiratory tract.
Okay.
But this one is able to multiply very fast in the upper. In fact, initially, it just multiplies in the upper respiratory tract. And the people who are infected start shedding the virus or giving out the virus, producing the virus and sending it out, even before they are sick. So I'll start spreading it to people before I have a fever, before I have a cough. Like the case which was discovered, the first case of Uganda, this gentleman just had some fever and nothing else.
Loss of appetite.
Yes, so if he had gone to just a clinic, they would maybe test for malaria and then just give him some Panadol, and he could just, I don't know how it will turn out, but he could just have that fever, take Panadol, and because he's young, he's 36 years, his innate immunity, he will keep the virus there fighting, then he will develop the immunity and fight it off. He could become okay. But by that time, he will have infected so many people.
Who are vulnerable.
Yes, who are vulnerable.
Immunity may not be strong enough.
He will have infected so many people, and out of those people, a number of them are going to go down with sickness. So, two things, Nancy, just to recap, why there is such a big concern. One, the virus is new, the entire global population is susceptible. That's why it has become a pandemic, affecting the whole world. Its ability to spread very fast and very efficiently. It spreads fast and efficiently, and then its ability to make so many people sick at a go. Even the best health systems cannot manage to handle the cases. So even people who would have been treated, they would die because the health system just can't cope. It's not about Uganda, it's just all over the world.
Doctor, this information you're giving us right now is very frightening. Is there hope? Is there a way of protecting ourselves? Is there some kind of... We've seen China is starting to recover from this, but we are seeing places like Italy are suffering and they're going into a very bad time of their lives. It's like every time the death sound, the increase. What can we do as Uganda to protect ourselves? Is there a protective measure? If there is no medicine for us to heal, can we protect ourselves so that we do not get sick? And how can we do that?
Now, thank you very much. The hope of every group of people, every community, every nation is to fight and prevent themselves from getting sick. The good news is there are simple things we can do at personal level, at family level, at community level, at institutional level, and also at national level, which we can do to protect ourselves and give ourselves the best chance not to get sick, and also if you're sick, not to spread it. So there are things that we can do, and they are within our reach.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
They are within our reach. So let me just start with personal level.
Okay.
The first line of defense is what? Avoid crowds. Avoid crowds. Sometimes you're going to hear people talking about social distancing. Now, what's a crowd? In the case of corona, we are defining a crowd as if you are 3 people together who do not stay together, usually. So if you are in a family, you can be there together. But if the 3 of you are meeting close, you are close to each other, and you are staying in different places, then that's a crowd. If you are in a crowd, then the way the virus spreads is going to reach you, because the virus leaves the person who has it through, first of all, if they breathe, if you're very close, even as somebody breathes, if you get a mirror and just place it in front of you and continue breathing, you'll see that steam, there will be something that will build on the surface. So in those small microscopic things, which are not usually visible to us, the virus is going. So once you're in a crowd, once you are in a place where people are so close together, even when you're not sick and you're breathing out this virus, the virus is going to reach the people next.
So just to cut you short on that point, does this mean our culture as we know it is going to change? Visiting, it's advisable to prevent people from visiting one another and all these social gatherings, however small.
Yes, we are not saying we are cancelling your culture, but for the sake of life now, under this fear, under this threat, which is now here home, social distancing is the best line of defense. Keep away from crowds. How do you keep away from crowds? 1, unless you must move, stay at home. All unnecessary travel, because when you're traveling, you're going to get in touch with other people.
True.
And you don't know, there is no way we can tell who has the virus. So if you don't have to travel, don't go visiting, stay at home. The second thing is, don't visit. Don't visit. I want to try not to visit other people. Don't have visitors. Visitors at home, people who are coming, you don't know where they have been. Even them, they don't know whom they have been exposed to. Keep away from meetings which are unnecessary. You know, meetings where you are going to be meeting people whom you don't know where they have been. I have seen that since the president gave the directive to close meetings, some people are sneaking. They are going to bars. They are going to nightclubs. Some people are sneaking into church. The moment you are interacting with people whom you don't usually stay with, you're putting yourself at risk. And the earlier we start practicing these things, the better we are, the better protected we are. So unnecessary movements. The other is you get into a taxi. The taxi has, depending on where it is in this country, 13 other people, and up country, probably 20 other people. A bus has 80 to 100 other people. So if most things are shutting down anyway, try not to travel. Keep away from church meetings. In office, minimize meetings where you are gathering people close together. You know? So you as an individual try to avoid crowds, because the virus, somebody will cough, somebody will sneeze, somebody will touch you, somebody will touch a door, and then you will touch, and the virus will come with your hands.
What is a safe distance to keep? As you're advising, social distancing is a new word in our community right now. Please elaborate. What is a safe distance to keep?
The minimum distance is 2 meters from each other.
Okay.
And that is very safe. If it is direct, like you are sitting, then we can more than 3 meters. Because you know, when I'm speaking, my saliva is going this way, you know. But because you are on the side, our 2 meters are okay, because I'm not speaking at you. Let me block it. I'm not, in case I'm not speaking in your direction all the time, but the person who is seated directly in front of me is really in direct shooting, you know. So if a person is in front of you, if you're talking, you must talk to your boss at the office, put a distance of 3 meters, and then discuss and minimize it as much as possible. And if possible, be on the side or sit in a V direction, so that you are all directing your jets of saliva. So try it, just simple things which are protective.
So before we go into community and institutional, I would like you to exhaustively talk about how we can protect ourselves as individuals and our immediate family. Besides distancing, what other practices do we need to change? Do we need to improve or adapt?
Okay, so the first line to defend yourself is keep away from crowds. And this is in your hands, my dear listeners. It is in your hands. Children, don't go playing with friends outside your home. Don't go to the trading center in the evening. Many of our people are usually, they all stay at home during the day. Then in the evening, everybody wants to buy salt, soap. They all congregate in the trading center and they converse. The people who are playing matatu and ludo and cards in those small groups, you're putting yourself in danger.
Sure.
Stay in your compound. You can talk to the people. This is going to pass. This is going to pass. So let us make sure it doesn't pass when we have died. So I can talk about, and people just think about these big things, but I've been getting calls from up country. People, young men and women, or especially the young men, you are gathering under big trees because you are at home and you are playing cards all day, and then in the evening you are going different places. If any of you has this virus, you are all going to get it, and then you take it to your families. You yourself, because you are young and strong, may survive, but you'll kill your mother, you'll kill your father, you'll kill your grandmother, you'll kill your aunt, because they'll get the virus from you. So let's not. The second line of defense for an individual is hand management. Now, God gave us this powerful tool called hands. Some of us have never thought about it, but the hands are the only pieces of equipment that a human being which reach everywhere on their bodies. There is no other part of you that touches the rest of your body. But the hand can move from the feet, it can move over every part of your body. So any dirt, any germ which is anywhere. Moreover, it also moves. It's the one we use to open doors, the one we use to touch surfaces, the one we use to eat, the one we use to scratch. Hand management. Now, quick information. Make a covenant with your hands never to touch your face. Coronavirus enters us. The major ways it infects human beings is through these 5 holes. The 5 holes on your face are the 2 eyes, the 2 nostrils, and the mouth. I have not yet verified about the ears.
Okay.
Yes, I've not yet got authentic information about the ears. But for now, let's take care of these 5 holes. Our 5 holes on the face. Some of us had never realized that we have 5 holes on our face. So keep your hand off your face. Now, I know this is going to be easy. I mean, it's not easy because we have grown up, we touch our face, we pick our nose, we scratch ourselves, we rub our eyes, we pull off those things which fall in there. Please don't touch your face because your hands are everywhere.
Dr. Monica, constantly we scratch our faces because we have an itch. When I'm feeling itchy on the face, how do you suggest I should do this?
Now, thank you, Nancy, for that question. If you need to scratch yourself and you cannot wash your hands before, because usually it is now, actually I'm feeling one itch, so I'm going to clean my eye. I take my clothes, whatever I am wearing, a dress, a t-shirt or what, I will go outside my clothes, outside, into a part just outside. I'll grab a piece of my jacket, and now I don't care whether you think I'm gross. I think I'd rather be gross than be dead. So then I'll use my fingers and I use my thumb to push an inside piece of my cloth, the one which is inside, and then I'll scratch the part which is itching. Never let your fingers touch your skin on the face. And you can do this with your shirt. Nancy, can you try and show us?
I've been copying you.
I have pushed it out. Yes, make sure you are not touching with your finger this way, but grab like that. Then using your thumb, the finger pulls back the other part, and you use your thumb to push that in and clean. It can clean, yeah. Usually whatever is inside your cloth is already on your body.
Protected.
Yeah, and because we wash our clothes, we tend to change our clothes very often, we put them in the sun.
And they're ironed in the
Don't
morning.
use the outside. Because the outside part of your cloth is already contaminated. And you are touching it all the time with your hands. So they are moving from the table, from the door. Do that, and that can keep you safe. So hand management, keep your hands off your face. Make a covenant with your hands never to touch your face. From now, even before you hear a case of corona near you, remind yourself, practice it. Eventually it becomes that every time you try to touch your face, you remember. Don't touch your face. Don't scratch your eyes. Don't clean your nose. Now, if you want, the other way we touch the face very often is to blow our nose. Now, many of us have used the hankies. You get your hanky because it has become actually a class, a social. When you want to blow your nose or to sneeze, you pull out your hanky. The problem with the hanky is that you put it back in your pocket. Now that creates a very nice environment for the virus to live long. The virus will live long in that nice, moist, cool environment. You're putting it at body temperature in your pocket, and it grows fast in your body because it is the optimum body temperature where it grows. So you are keeping it there, and then after a while you pull it, you're touching with your hands again, which have picked things. So if we can, if you feel you're going to sneeze, this is what we do. In your elbow. Don't mind about society. The men. So during this time, putting on long sleeved clothes actually is protective. Protective. Yeah, it's quite protective. So because that I'm protecting other people. But I'm talking about it here with respect because you don't want to pull out your hanky. And sneeze. We're taught. Yeah, so actually we keep accumulating. Sneeze number 1 puts there dose number 1. Then you put it back. And it multiplies. Not only multiplies, but then you go do other things. You pick more. Then now the one you donated the first time to the hanky is there. So as you're blowing, you're exchanging. The one on the hanky is going to your face.
The one on the
And then,
that I touched.
so you put there, those two. You are putting it. And don't do that. Don't do it in your hands because you're contaminating them. Because you're going to do that, as many people do, then they pull out the hanky and rub it in and keep it. I don't know, we've never thought about some of these things, but you're basically storing germs in your pocket. So if you want to cough and you don't have tissue, this is the cheapest that we find in the supermarkets for us here around Kampala, but I'm also sure that it can go to every part of the country.
Even toilet paper can work.
Even toilet paper can work. Now, we are not using it just because sometimes when you have a cold, you'll be blowing out and something is coming out. Instead of keeping it, first of all, you pick it, and this side which is clean, when you pick, you don't touch all sides. You turn the side that you have not touched, and then that's what you put on your nose. You blow, you clean, and dispose. Don't keep it again. Some of us have a habit of storing it. Don't keep it. Throw it away. That will keep everybody safe. You are not. If you touch this again, your hands have already done what? Touched it. So whatever was on your hands has been transferred to this.
So doctor,
yes.
When I get the tissue like this,
open the clean inside.
The inside that I have not touched.
Yes.
It's the one I use.
Yes.
And sneeze or blow my nose. Close it.
Yeah. Now some people have a tendency of closing it, folding it again, and then using that part as the cleaner side to add. Now whatever is on your hands has gone where? Inside. Is now going to get into your nose.
So we open the part that
is clean.
Is inside. That's the one we use. Fold it and throw away.
And throw away in a safe place.
We don't use this
no,
side
because you've already touched it. Whatever corona was on your hands is going to. These now are some nitty-gritty things that people who started with the disease did not think through. They did not think through. So manage your hands. Try not to touch many things. When you're opening doors, if the door is already partially open, or if you can use your elbow instead of your hand. For the handle, use this to push and then push by your foot. Because the handles, people are always touching them, so they are contaminated. If you can't avoid, go wash your hands after. So hand management. By the way, washing your hands is a very, very powerful tool. Because 70% of the germs that we get from the environment come to us via our hands. They come through our hands. So if you can manage your hands, manage your hands. Even if the virus is on your hands, but you don't touch these 4 holes, it will not get into your body.
So we have basically, to summarize what you've said, our mothers used to tell us, when we were children, the first rule was no and don't touch. Don't touch, don't touch, don't touch. It is now that we have to remember that. Don't touch doorknobs. Some people have a habit of walking and touching the walls. It's like we need support. The rails, the chairs. If you don't need to, keep your hand. You're telling us from now onwards, keep your hands to yourself as much as we possibly can. Yes, and I will, at institutional level, I'll be talking in detail about some of the things like you need to practice, the institutions need to practice. For example, supermarkets. Have you ever thought about who has been using your trolley? The one you're using for shopping? Okay, we shall have a part on that. So we're still talking about managing ourselves. There's been a lot of panic buying sanitizer, making our own sanitizer. There's soap at home and water that we've been using. What is better? Is it better to use soap, sanitizer? Why do we use sanitizer? Why soap? Why should we throw all the soap out and just use sanitizer? What's the difference? Okay, thank you, Nancy. That takes me to the next thing, the third line of protection. So the first one was avoid crowds. The second one is hand management. The third one is hand cleanliness or hand hygiene.
Now, your hands, because of their nature, they have all the types of joints. They really move. And they say that the Africans' eyes are in the hands. Africans haven't seen something. When I tell you, Nancy, can I see your book? I'm meaning, can I touch? You want to touch. Our eyes are in our hands. But now, there is another level. Your hands will move. They will touch places. So long as you keep them out of your face, you still have to do a lot of things. You're touching your laptop, you're touching your phone, you're touching the desk, you're touching everything that you're coming across. We have to do that. Hand cleanliness. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. Washing your hands properly with soap and water is very, very protective. When we move, our hands sweat. Sometimes some people sweat a lot, and the sweat is actually visible, while some people don't. But we have glands that produce oils to keep your skin from drying. Now that oil also attracts things. It attracts dirt, anything that goes in, a lot of things that go in your hands stay there. If you want to know, just go and wash. You may not have touched anywhere, but when you go home and wash your hands, you see dirt.
In the sink.
In the sink, you see the dirt is there. So those things are invisible, but the virus hides in there. You know, your hands are not very flat. They are not, you have grooves all over. You have this. So you have to wash. When you wash your hands with soap and water, the good news is soap is fairly affordable to almost everybody. Water, God has blessed Uganda with water. Every place will have some water. Now it's beginning to rain. There will even be that one coming from heaven, just free coming everywhere. Wash your hands with soap. It doesn't matter which type of soap. Just the blue soap, the white soap, the liquid soap many people are making now. Any type of soap. You don't need to be, it doesn't need to be medicated. Just the usual soap and water. The important thing is for you to wash your hands thoroughly. Let me show here, but there is a video that is already there that shows you hand washing. The one I have made, but also many other people have these videos that show proper hand washing. Because the problem is that people pour water and then do this, and they think they have washed their hands. The principle is not to rub your hands together. The principle is one hand is washing the other hand. So you have to actually, like you would scrub the other parts of the body. You start the left hand, and it moves in a minimum of 5 rotations in each part. You scrub. This hand is now washing this one thoroughly because you are removing dirt from all these parts. Then turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, and then wash here. Then turn the hands, and this hand will scrub this upper part thoroughly. Scrub 5 movements. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the minimum. Why we are not saying that you need that much rubbing, but for the soap to kill the virus, you need a minimum of 20 seconds. Yeah, the soap can kill the virus.
So the longer the soap stays on my hands,
the better.
Okay.
And you want it to get everywhere. So put enough soap on your hands, not just to have some foam, but enough. Then after washing here, then there is these parts, and you are not just rubbing like this. You want to wash the sides to make sure they are all washed, and then move this hand to wash this one. Then we pay particular attention to this area here, because the one that touches every, you know, you hold, these are things you've never observed. When you're everything you're picking up. So we take this hand and scrub this place, and also here. And then we wash these parts, you know. So you do this.
Okay.
Yes, and again 5 rubs. You are washing these parts. So as you do this, this one is washing this way, and this one is washing this way. And then finally, you wash
the
fingertips. And we do that by rubbing them. Not just, some people just do this. No, as you press the hand, you open that ball, that space between the nail, and let the soap get in there, so that it removes the dirt and also accesses the virus which is stuck there. Because apart from holding things like this, the fingertips are the ones which are always picking everything. So you take a minimum of 20 seconds washing your hands. But we can wash our hands for longer, but give the soap enough time to kill the virus. And always wash your hands with water which is flowing. When you're washing, you do not let, you don't wash like this, then water is, meaning you're putting the dirt this way. So when we are washing, even when you
facing down.
Yeah, facing down. And then when you're rinsing, the water has to be flowing down. Now some people, when they are rinsing, they are doing this. No, let you pour the water. You've seen the doctors when they wash, they do this, then that. Then, if you have clean tissue, you can use it for drying your hands. If you don't have, just leave. Don't use handy towels in bathrooms where everybody is using to dry their hands. Just do that. Hands take like 2 minutes to dry. Huh? No, you can do that, that's okay. But leave your hands down after washing, don't immediately. Then some of us wash our hands, then we go. You are contaminating the hands.
That you just
cleaned. That you just cleaned. You wash your hands, then you rub them to dry. Having wet hands is not a problem. And hands will dry within 1 to 2 minutes if you just let the water, because the skin repels water.
So you're saying that if I have soap and water,
yes,
I basically don't need the sanitizer if I have access to soap and water. How often
you
should
don't
I
need
wash
hand sanitizer.
So how often should I wash my hands?
Wash your hands every time you see water. Every time. And now I'm actually, because for me, I'm a very practical person. Ladies, as you're leaving home, you don't have to use Rwenzori water to wash your hands. Put some tap water, put some water from the borehole in that bottle, put it in your bag. Put a little piece of soap. If you travel in a taxi, you have touched places where people have touched. When you get where you're going, wash your hands. So let's be practical. If you drive, put the big one, 1.5 liters, in the car and soap. Don't wait for public places where there is water, because many of us are saying, oh, there is no water, there is no water. Let's take responsibility for our lives. I can put a mineral water bottle in my bag and move with it.
True.
It doesn't have to be mineral water, any water. And a small piece of soap, and whenever I get opportunity and I need to touch things, wash your hands. Because the longer you take without washing your hands, the higher the chances you're going to contaminate yourself and get infected.
Thank you very much for that, because there's been a lot of panic that if I can't afford sanitizer, then I will be at risk. But the fact that you've given us a more practical method of keeping our hands clean, I can have a small piece of soap and water, a bottle of water in my big bag or my handbag, and have it all the time with me. That's very practical. So I can just keep on refilling the bottle.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be mineral water.
No.
So this is very cheap. Any tap I find, I can refill my bottle, have my soap, and on the move, I can always have my clean water and soap.
Yes.
Thank you. That is very practical.
Very,
it
very
makes
practical.
me more comfortable knowing that I don't have to have a lot of money to keep safe.
Yeah. So sanitizer is usually practical when you are in places where you cannot. I don't trust just using sanitizer and I eat. No. I just use it in those interim places until I find water to wash my hands. Actually, if you want to use your hand sanitizer at home, first wash your hands. Because sanitizer does not remove the soap. And then the way we are keeping our sanitizers, the active ingredient in most of the sanitizers we are using is alcohol, and alcohol ethanol evaporates. So it might still smell, but it has 50%, it is become less. So the most practical way to keep your hands is wash your hands. If you're visiting a building, wash when you're entering, wash when you're going out. In fact, take business owners and building owners to account. If you reach a building and there is no hand washing, ask them, where is the hand washing? Because it is for you. It's for you. So take responsibility. Be practical. If you're traveling, make sure you have some water with you. A soda bottle, plastic, fill it, cover, and when you have opportunity. Now also, when those of you who are going to office, you're traveling, when you get home, we have to change the habits. In my home, usually I have my little niece, she's my namesake, I named her after myself, so we love each other. So every time I come, she's there, Mommy, hug her. She calls me Mommy. But now we have changed that. When I get home, the first thing is not to get a hug from everybody. The first thing is go wash my hands. Then I'll take off my outer cloth. It has changed the way I dress to always make sure I have a vest, especially in the upper part. I'll make sure, then I'll go change, then wash my hands again. I wash my hands, I'll go take off my clothes from the street, I'll change my clothes, I'll wash my hands again, then I'll come and give everybody a hug. Because many of us, we are asking, our children are back home, they are not in school. Many people, as the disease, if we get any evidence that's spreading more, a lot of businesses will be advised to go. So many people will be at home. But some people still keep going out. Make sure you have thoroughly washed your hands before you interact with the people at home.
We've seen all kinds of information going around that when you get home, go and have a bath before you interact with everybody at home. Is that necessary or is that too much? Is there anything like too much precaution when it comes to a pandemic like this?
There isn't too much precaution, and I have to say that we are giving you a lot of information, but this disease is new. Every single day we are getting so much new information. So for me, if you can, this isn't a lot. But even before you bathe, because if you're going to bathe, the tendency is to start with just pouring. First, wash your hands. First, clean your hands as I have showed you. Even when you're going in the bathroom, you're going to bathe. Then remove your clothes, then wash your hands, then bathe the rest of the body.
Okay.
Because the hands is the gadget
that's moving this disease around.
Yeah. Okay. So I've mixed in there a little bit of protecting your family, but I wanted to emphasize wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Have you, at this point, exhaustively talked about protection, self-protection, so that we can move on to family, community, institutional, and national? Yes,
so to protect yourself, keep away from crowds.
Okay.
Manage your hands and practice good hand hygiene. Now we also forget to protect yourself, the things that we move with, that our hands are carrying. You may have put my bag somewhere there, and many of us, when you reach your room, is put it on your bed, put it where you are. And then eventually you will come and lie down and sleep and pull the blanket. So anything which has gone out of the home, put it somewhere else. And if you have these sprays, the alcohol, just spray it. Yeah, spray your handbag outside. Because they've been sitting in many places. Yeah, spray it.
Thank you for that.
And if you have a cloth which you don't intend to wash, put it out in the sunshine. The sun kills the virus.
Oh.
Yeah.
That is a natural way of killing the virus.
If Nancy has an expensive jacket for dry cleaning, and you've been in places and whatever, just put it out on the sunshine and the sun will kill the virus.
This is very practical. So moving on to the family institution, you've covered a bit of family as we were talking about personal, because you cannot talk about personal without talking about family. So we need to move on to community, institutional, and then national. What are we going to do so that we don't have the case of Italy where dead bodies, they started by using garbage trucks to pick the dead bodies. Now they are using military trucks because the garbage trucks are not enough. That's not something we can afford to see here.
Can you imagine? I'm
not saying any country can afford to see that, but right now we may not have the resource. So right now what is best is preventative rather than managing the disease when it has gone out of hand.
I'm really praying that, but my prayer is action oriented. And I'm really praying that Ugandans will listen to these protective messages and each person will take individual responsibility. Teach your children. Explain to them. Don't just give commands. Let them understand the implications. You know, let them understand. Let them watch the news with you to see what the virus is doing to the mighty nations. And if we allow this virus to spread here, it will be big, big disaster. So let's take responsibility. Now, at household level, as an individual, you protected yourself, you've kept away from crowds, you have managed good hand management, you have done good hand hygiene, and you have tried to disinfect your personal properties which go out. Now, disinfecting, of course, your personal property is part of protecting your family. Any member of the family who goes out should first practice personal hand hygiene and remove their clothes before they interact with everybody else. And that is protective to the family. If you are going to wash clothes, put them in the sunshine, the ones that you've been with, put them out there, let the virus die before you give the clothes to the maid to wash. Okay? Yeah. Because if I just go remove this, fold it, put it in the basket, then the virus has a safe place to stay.
To stay until the maid comes to wash.
Yeah, so sunshine is free disinfection that we have. I told you, no visitors at home. Please, everybody wants to visit me, wait until Corona is over. Don't come. You are not welcome. Call me. Please don't come to visit me because you will not be allowed. Doesn't matter whether you are my relative. Don't come. And I will not be visiting anybody. We shall talk on phone. Keep your family separate from the neighbors. Keep your children separate from the neighbors. Then there are parts in the home that are used communally. The dining table, the bathrooms, the door handles. Get a disinfectant and routinely disinfect these places. Put up a routine, you know, put up a routine. Every after heavy use, like there are times of the day when so many people are moving, you know. You can use, we are reviewing information about chlorine, but you can use the alcohol-based sanitizers. You can also still use the jig.
Some people are using jig,
yeah,
Dettol,
jig,
liquid.
Jig and anything which has a chemical called Lysol kills viruses.
How about soap? For people who cannot afford jig,
yeah, you can still wash the handle.
Can we have
the soap?
Yeah, with soap and just
put in
make
soap
sure there's soap
and
and clean those places.
You can steal the door handles. So put up a routine depending on the movement of people, but especially after people have come in a lot in the evening. People who have been out there, if they have come in, then clean the surfaces, clean the dining table at least 2-3 times a day with this. For jig, we mix 1 cup of jig with 4 cups of water. Whichever measure you are measuring of jig, measure 4 of water and mix. Then it is good to have the person who is cleaning should have some gloves because that concentration is going to be harmful. Now the challenge is that most of us have door handles which are metallic, and jig tends to spoil metals. It will corrode them. You use plastic containers, so the best is to find some other disinfectant or just have it. If you clean, it will get a little rust over time, but you can use soap. Okay. Soap can kill this virus.
So some families have sanitizers already in their homes.
Mm-hmm.
They are spraying everybody who comes in and spraying, and the children have gotten used to spraying. How safe is this? Because we know chemicals are also not good for our bodies. How safe is this sanitizer around children especially?
Now, the issue with spraying people is unless the chemical has been mixed for spraying cloth or for spraying deep things, it will just be psychological. Like alcohol, if I spray it in your clothes, it won't stay there long enough to kill the virus. Oh. It is most of it is just going to evaporate very fast. And we really don't have an idea of the concentration that needs to be reached here. Now we know the hands. We know the hands. And then the surfaces, you can use alcohol. But spraying human beings, That one we use it a lot in Ebola. We disinfect people even when their patients are leaving the Ebola ward. They tell you to have a bath, and it's a chlorine bath. You bathe in chlorine water to kill you. I mean, not to kill you, but to clean you, to kill the virus on you, which may be on you. Okay. That is usually the last step when you have survived and you're exiting the Ebola ward. They will spray you with, you remove your clothes, all of them, and you'll bathe. But we spray on plastic, and then you can bathe on your body. But with our clothes, if you use chlorine to bleach the clothes, and alcohol, I'm not so sure. So I think the best way is the clothes, the things that have been, of course, put them away, put them in the sun. Here in Uganda, we are so blessed. Put the clothes in the sun. The sun kills the virus very fast. Let them, direct sunshine kills the virus. So, and then ironing. Even if you put on the clothes, iron it again. I know we are not in that practice, but if you don't iron the collar and the parts which begin to go by, this is a cleaning ironing. The heat of the flat
this time
iron.
We are not ironing to be smart.
No, not ironing.
We are ironing to be alive.
To be alive. So those are the alternatives you can have. Do cleaning, do ironing, spread in the sunshine. Then that will kill the virus. And I think if you just hang fabric out for a while, the virus.
So long, but this information you're giving us is very important. So I understand you're very tired and very busy, but just 2 more questions. I would like you to speak to the general public and tell them about, 1, the longevity of the virus on different surfaces, and secondly, please talk more in detail about the immunity that we said would postpone and talk about last. Please talk more in detail, but as you speak, we are not doctors, just so to remind you. We need to understand it in layman's language. So please tell us more about the virus and how long it stays on surfaces.
Now,
then
again, thank you, Nancy, for that question. Again, I will say that this virus is new. Information is changing every day. Some of the information we started with at the beginning of the week. So I'll just say so far what we know. So far what we know. If your hands are dry and clean and you touch a place with this virus and you're just moving, the virus can die quite quickly, less than 10 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah. But if your hands have some material, then it can stay much longer.
Our body lotions and
yes, that's the issue. We put lotions, we put what? So practically, actually, the virus stays long on your hands, not because of that's how it would stay in your palms if they were always dry, but we even don't like to have our hands dry. We usually moisturize them. So they might stay. Now, it has been shown that on fabric, it dies pretty fast.
Oh, that's why we can sneeze and cough like that.
Yeah, on dry fabric, it dies pretty fast. It doesn't last long. The virus seems to like dry surfaces. So on wooden surfaces, it can stay, I think, for a few days, like on a table. Because it lands there in a small blob of your mucus, in saliva, so unless it is disinfected, it may stay there for a long time. The longest, on gloves, it can stay up to 8 hours on plastic gloves. These surgical gloves.
So basically, we've been seeing people on TV, on CNN and BBC, they wear gloves as they are going out of home as protective gear. Oh, that's something else you've not talked about. Protective gear when the worst comes to the worst. How you'll need to also talk about that later. Okay.
Now, gloves are used for when you are in a very contagious situation, like a hospital, like you are helping people who are sick. Gloves, face masks, those where you know that really the virus is here. For cleaners who are cleaning, they need to have those heavy duty gloves. Now, I've been seeing people with surgical gloves in public places. Now, the glove would ideally protect you, technically, but practically it usually doesn't. Because when people put on gloves, they have this false confidence that they are safe. So they'll put on gloves, then they will touch a lot of things. Then when something is itching, they'll scratch. So the glove, basically, because it seems to keep the virus longer, it just collects them there. And then people forget that you're protecting the hands, but the gloves are going to affect the skin. So put on gloves only in those environments and then remove them and throw them away.
Do not reuse.
Do not reuse the gloves. When you remove gloves, it's recommended. So you can wear the gloves when you're doing something. Don't wear gloves and walk around with them. Please. They are not going to be useful. Your hands, the virus does not just land on here and pass through your hands which are covered. No. The virus will have to move from your hands, and if your hands are covered by a glove and you don't do hand management, in fact, you have a greater chance of being infected than one who doesn't have gloves.
Because on the hands it stays for about 10 minutes, and yet on plastic it stays
long.
For 8 hours.
Yeah. Now, for other plastic surfaces, the virus has been, they have been able to recover live virus after 9 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, on plastic surfaces. And you notice that we use a lot of plastic surfaces. You're not
in
conscious.
our restaurants.
Everywhere. Table mats. We use a lot of plastic. A lot of plastic
Cups
around
and
us.
plates.
So when the virus gets there, unless there is washing with soap or disinfection, the virus can stay there for days. Now, again, I have to say that this information will keep changing as more research is being done. This is a new virus. We are getting as much information. Let's work with what we have. If we come and tell you something different, don't say, oh, they lied to us. No, we are just trying to act in real time. Let's live to what we know. And then when we will keep adding on. So in terms of protecting your family and things, no visitors, don't visit. Wash your hands. Manage your clothes that have been out in the streets and disinfect and clean you. That's where the spray comes in very well for your bags and what. So, and make sure that your children are not carrying handbags. Some of them are whatever, they are still plastic. You make sure that people are not carrying around the virus.
Okay, so institutionally, a lot of companies are still at work right now as we speak. There are company meetings, our offices are cramped, some of them you sit 5 to 10 people in a space such as this. How would you advise us? Should we stop going to work immediately? Is it advisable? Because then we suffer our salaries and wages. How are we going to manage this?
Now, for institutions, before I go there, there is this wonderful gadget called the phone. You know, the phone is a very pervasive piece of equipment. It's ubiquitous. And we are beginning to even share communication with each other, including viruses. Because if I have my phone, you see where it is?
On my
Hello,
face.
yes. And I'm
Mouth.
speaking. Then Gunda Aliao, let me talk to them.
And you pass it on.
I pass on the phone, including the virus. So don't touch, including don't share phones, get your own phone, they're cheap ones. If somebody wants to talk to somebody, give that person's number. And
So
let them call the other
You're
person.
basically telling us to speak on loudspeaker.
I've now been
so that
doing
it
that.
doesn't go
I've
on
been
my
doing
face.
that. If I have to speak something private, then I have to disinfect my phone. I think you saw me here when I was giving it to somebody whom I want to manage while I'm here. I looked for disinfectant. When I couldn't see, I went actually and wiped it with soap.
And then
yes,
that's the only
before
safe
I
one.
could pass it on to somebody else. So the disease has defeated very powerful systems because of these things that we, simple things around us that we don't see. Now you see, you know, microphones, people are sharing microphones.
Oh, that's why ours is.
Yeah, it's down here.
Put
I'm not
down
even
here.
looking at it. The cameraman is more in danger of my saliva than the microphone. Yes, it is down here, it's capturing everything. So let's be conscious. I cannot enumerate everything, it will be too long, but let's be conscious of the things that will cause us to be infected. Then we don't know how we got infected. We don't know how we got infected because the virus was moving, and for us, we were just watching for the big things. I'm just getting very practical, very practical. Now, for institutions, for office, let me first talk about office before I go to the institutional level. I advise for the institutional level. For offices, we need some basic services to still go on, although at some point, we know that only emergency services like health care and what would, if in countries where the disease has spread, the only emergency services are left. They have shut down everything. No shop, no restaurant, no movement. You stay in your home. So, but now that we are still working in the offices and the virus we know now is in Uganda, we don't know how far it has gone. So let's start practicing these things even before we know. Because when you have already been practicing, you're not learning and making mistakes when the virus is here. So one, social distancing still.
Very important.
Very important. I mentioned something earlier. Don't get into this habit of going to your friend's desk. Use the phone, intercom. Use your phone, yes. Let everybody stay in their space. Minimize meetings that require people to sit for long together. On conference tables and what. Use email. Use
conference calling.
Yeah, use email, use telephone call. Reduce.
We now have Google Meetings now.
Google Meetings. Just minimize the meeting. Make sure the office has the sanitation equipment. There is hand washing everywhere. You are disinfecting the common places, even desks, every desk. We disinfect twice a day, 3 times a day. After every meeting, make sure you have this.
How useful are these gadgets? Because now we are going out.
Now we are going out.
To go to the office.
Yeah. Initially, we have been telling everybody don't use these gadgets.
I think you need to pull one out so that they know what gadgets we are talking about.
Okay, now I don't want.
You can pull up the top one. If you touch the top one only, you won't touch the rest.
You see, the problem is they have put the inside one, the inside part out.
Oh, may I have one, please?
Yes. Now, this is called a surgical mask. Okay. This is a surgical mask. It has these strings. Now, the one thing that people are not aware of is that on one side it has something hard in here. There's something hard in here. Now we are not conscious of it. Okay.
Which one is the outside? Which one is the inside?
The inside is the blue.
Is the blue side.
The colored side is the
and
inside.
The light one is the outside.
Okay. Okay. So
which is the top?
Now this thing, the stick-like thing inside, directs you what goes up.
Okay.
It should be up. That's the nose piece. So it gives you the orientation. Blue side inside.
White side outside?
I'm not so sure about that. Is it white side?
Yes.
Blue side. Okay. Because colors. So I hope that that's the convention here for this one. Now, don't put it this way with this stick-like thing down. When you do that, the areas around your nose are going to stay open and the whole thing is going to just stand down.
Okay.
Yes.
So how do we put them on?
Put that stick-like thing up.
Okay.
Now you do this. This one, that piece should go, this one is supposed to be here.
On the nose.
Yes, and you bend it, you put like that, and then you press that piece around your nose.
Ah, okay. So
Shape it according to your nose, and then stretch this down. Now you see mine is not standing like this.
So now we are safe.
Yes.
And our eyes?
And everybody is safe from you.
2 holes are still open.
2 holes are still open because, so usually in practice, if you are in a highly infectious environment, you put on goggles to protect the eyes. Because you still need to see, and this one is opaque. Now this thing prevents things from passing out. So if I cough, now
so
if I don't
cough
need
and sneeze,
everything, you don't even need that now. Because the droplets are going to stop.
Be contained in here.
Also, if you are working in a really heavily infectious environment, you can wear them. But it's biggest, they are called surgical masks because surgeons put them on to protect the patient
from getting whatever is inside
during surgery, if you see anything. Because the surgeons will have to talk to each other. They talk minimally, so they'll be like, pass the scalpel, pass the suture, pass this. But whatever is coming out of you has bacteria, has things. If you didn't have it, and you have this patient whom you've cut open, then those things will go and cause infection. So they were designed as surgical masks to protect the patient. Now, if you notice, for the time you have put it on properly, you notice it is hot. And as you breathe in, it will soon become wettish. It is only stays dry if people haven't put it on properly. Like he has, he could stay with his for the whole day and nothing will happen because everything is what? Is open. Now, the way it is open is not protective. So, if you put it on, it has a tendency to get wet.
Hot and wet.
Because all the moisture that is coming from you is staying in here. So, after a while,
so we should have put on the mask.
The doctors have been advising us that if you put it on for long, instead, you'll get yourself, because things from out will accumulate because it is wet. And those things can potentially get.
So how long should I keep this mask on my face?
If
I'm outside my home, I'm in the office, because I
as
talked
long
about
as
this because of the office environment. I cannot stop going to work, and yet we have to communicate.
I think it will depend. We have observed that in China, people have been putting on these masks everywhere. There is some new information coming out of the virus, and I think by the end of, or by later this week, we will have concrete information on whether these should be recommended for outside or not. Yeah. So new information is coming out. New information.
So for now, we should wear it.
For now, in Uganda, periods of time. For now in Uganda, because the virus is really not circulating a lot. We have just detected our first case. If you are going into a place where you think, like especially we are recommending it for people who are sick. If you're sick,
if I have any cough,
flu,
cough,
or just temperature, just feeling a headache and you feel a bit hot, then put it on. Not for your protection, but for the protection of those that you love. But don't be surprised if that information changes, because we are looking at the research every day, because we depend on the research, we depend on the conclusions.
So right now we need to continue
reading. Now, let's continue
reading and listening.
Yeah, the challenge is that the general population doesn't read the science information. They read social media and news articles, and they cannot read. But we will summarize the correct information and present it.
Have you currently put any systems in place? Now that we understand that our society does not read much, have you put any systems in place that are going to, the public needs to know? what kind of systems you've put in place and where they can find this information.
This information, the president is going to frequently address the nation. Frequently. So
TV is one of them.
The minister is going to frequently address the nation. And the information which comes out, the risk communication team will be continuously trained, continuously given updates on what is working and what is not working, on what we should change from what we originally told you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Will this go on radios as well?
Yes, whatever comes goes through to the risk communication system. It will be on radios, to be on TV, starting right from the president to the minister, to ministry officials, to interreligious council, risk communication people, to volunteers. The pastors are speaking, the imams are speaking, everybody in the community, the political leaders are speaking. So they will all get the information through that channel, and frequently as every evidence comes. Because now China is the only country in one city where they have demonstrated stopping of what?
The coronavirus.
The virus from circulating. So a lot of information is being analyzed. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. She was asking about clothes. We buy second-hand clothes.
No, that's scary that they are sending second-hand clothes from China, which have been died of
coronavirus and all that.
That kind of thing. Because I think when you're talking about fabrics, and you say they're not stay long in fabrics.
Yeah.
So they are risky.
Although if the clothes have been packed, they usually disinfect. That's something we need to do research on. For now we will come back with authentic. I like everything I say to be backed by science. Yeah. Everything has to be backed by science. So we will leave out that part in the communication. In our communities, we have various levels of communities, and based on where people are and the behaviors, the principles is that once the disease comes to your community, then there's nearest at risk. So in order to protect the community, we have to move from the protecting the individuals. One in the community, don't gather. Now we have had this challenge of barriers. For us Africans, we are attached. Your importance or the importance of your children or those related to you is measured by how many people show up at the burial. And we have made the burials really such big events. We cook food, people travel from abroad, from all over the country. And these days we have 5,000 people at a funeral. I know that we value this, but my friends, I'm telling you, we loved the one who has died. We have loved them so much. But it will not make sense if by going to bury, you infect yourself and others, and possibly join the one who has died. So we go to escort the dead because we are still alive. Now, if you're also going to die within the next 3 weeks, that will not make much sense. So I have been meditating on the verse in the Bible where Jesus said, let the dead bury the fellow dead. I think it has a lot of deep meaning. So what we are saying is that people who have been with this person when that person is sick, and they have been within that locality, we are giving a guideline that only family members who live within, only family members, that is number 1. 2, those family members must be living within the parish where this person has died.
So no traveling from...
No, because a maximum of 50 people who are very spaced, including the grave diggers, including the funeral company, those who are coming to bury, including the priests. You should not exceed 50 people. and these people must be very well spaced. Now, because it may not be possible in Uganda, many times people die and we don't know what they have died of. So, yes, we don't know what they have died of. If this person was in the hospital and tested and found to be negative of coronavirus and has died from something else, family members who live within the parish should be the ones to do what? To bury. The others, you can send Mavugo on phone. Send mobile money to support the burial. No food should be served because food brings together so many people. When there is no food at the funeral, especially the children in the area, they will not gather. Then let's avoid long services. Let us avoid having longer services. These days we have WhatsApp groups.
Because
so
church has been closed now.
Yeah, church has been closed. So the entire burial process should not take more than an hour. That will limit the number of people who gather, and you are able to space the people and deliberately do this, not because you don't love the person, but this is a temporary situation. Gathering at home before the body arrives is not useful. So we have all been told the person has died. I know there is a sorrow, but let's not get infected in our sorrow. Gathering and spending a night together, mixed families, will increase our chances. This is among the things that the president directed, and we are just now trying to give more specific guidelines. So if the family has a funeral company which is going to support, but sometimes if it's the community members who are coming to dig the grave and what, in whichever case, minimize to 50 people scattered all over, no cooking, the grave diggers can come early and dig the grave and go, you know, and then the preacher and the people carrying the casket should be the only ones who go to the grave to avoid, and maybe the immediate members of the family scattered, separated from one another at least 2 meters. And no food should be cooked and served at the funerals. After the burial, let other people go and the family members stay. There will be a time when we are out of this bad situation. Now, if the person has died of corona, the government will take charge. They will not give you the body.
So even the family members shall not bury?
No, they will not be there. The government will come and bury this person the way we bury Ebola.
Doctor, ordinarily, most of us stay in small places like...
If there is a question,
maybe first...
For there can be digging the grave, then very few people should go from there.
Even Masanza,
So you take the body, a few of you take the body.
that's the bit
Yeah, a few of you take the body from Kampala and you go. No, I'm still explaining.
Doctor, you've talked about funeral arrangements and how they're going to change drastically. And in Uganda, we are attached to our cultures very much. Please explain, if I live in Kampala in a small neighborhood, what we call the Mizigos, or in estates, and we are not, obviously we are not going to bury where we rent, and you have said only the people in the parish bury. If I'm living in Kampala and we are supposed to bury in Kapchora or Iganga or Mbarara, what happens then? What is the government saying on those guidelines?
Okay. Now, I'm not speaking for government. I'm speaking as a professional and trying to guide, to create a situation which is preventive. We bury, but we do not risk the lives of many people.
Of the ones who are
staying alive. The government guideline is that only family members bury, and no food should be cooked because food attracts people and then makes people stay long and makes people interact. You know, plastic which we are using, makes people from far. So let only family members in the area. So my estimate is that family members tend to stay together. So if somebody has died, however, from Kampala, just a minimum number of people should travel, 10 or less if possible, with the body. Usually the guidance is if somebody dies at home, it's important to take the body to the mortuary immediately.
That
They
is
also,
a cost.
yeah,
Taking
now
the
the
body to
challenge
a
is
mortuary is a
Ugandans.
cost.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Challenge with Ugandans is we are always worried about what's expensive. I've seen people steal people from the hospital when they are sick. If they think they are going to die because the cost of transporting a body is high, they steal a person whom, when they think the person is going to die, before the person dies, so that they can transport the person like a living human being. So Ugandans are worried about cost. So burials should be swift. Because if a person has died, I don't know, the government guidelines may be coming, because when corona has spread and we are aware that many people are not going to the hospital, these guidelines might change. Because when we were dealing with Ebola, you were not allowed to bury until that body had been inspected. And that there was no cost to that. We didn't take the bodies to the mortuary, but the body had to be inspected by people at a big specimen. But these guidelines may change. For now, minimum, less than 10 people should travel with the body. In the community where you're going to bury, not more than 50 people will gather. If you are gathering more than that, the police will come.
So I will say, when I'm in the village somewhere, that Dr. Monica said that 50 people.
Yes,
And
please.
Right now we only have one case. So are you telling us 50 people for right now? Because later on, when there are more cases in the country, should we maintain the 50 people?
No. The guidelines are going to change. A time is if the virus is spreading in Uganda, then the new guidelines will have to be issued.
So we shouldn't quote you on
Dr. Monica has said. And I've been getting a lot of questions from pastors and other people from up country, or somebody, I have lost my father-in-law, should I go and bury? Those people know you love them. You are not showing their love now because the person has died. Let all of us understand that the people who have not come to help us mourn are not. So the president's guidelines is, let's do the burial now. Then when this threat is over, you can gather, because during these funerals, people collect money, this one collects money, that's already a risk, People gather, they are fighting for food, they are sharing cups. It's really a menu for spread of COVID.
Disease.
It's a menu for spread of COVID.
So for now, let's do what is necessary.
Minimum swift burial. Once a person has died, we know this person has died.
Bury immediately.
If the person has died in the morning and it is possible, bury that same day.
Or
else bury the next day. Minimum number of people. No gatherings, no vigils at night at this person's home, no staying there. Even visiting, call them.
Today, we've been told that learning never ends. Today, in summary, you've taught us a number of things. Number one, distance, social distancing.
Yes.
Social distancing. Number two, don't touch.
Hand management, don't touch.
Don't touch, wash. Number three, we have talked about clothes and how they should be managed, and the sun is our friend. Number four, you've talked about our cultures and how burials should be swift and quick. You've also talked about how we should manage our offices and how we should minimize all meetings, which is very interesting, because now we can no longer we're going to have to change the way we meet in the offices.
Yes.
But in all this...
let me just add this, that if possible, some people who don't necessarily need to be in the office, let them work at home.
If you can work on your computer and your phone,
let them work at home. There are jobs where we must be there to do. Let those ones come. But if I am an accountant and I can work on my figures at home, I can only come to the office. We have telephones. People
When you
call
need
me when
it.
I needed to. That will reduce the crowding. So there are several ways of, there's flex time, there's alternate presence at office to reduce the population.
If you work 10 people today, you can say
So
5 people work today and
let
others
every
work the
workplace look at take time and look through their procedures. I don't know how long we are going to stay in this situation, but as long as there is, even if we don't have another case in Uganda, but we still have cases in the neighborhood. We still have cases in Kenya where they are increasing. Rwanda they have been increasing. Tanzania they are increasing. It's DRC where we have not seen an increase. So as long as we have these neighbors and then the other countries where the virus is coming, then we will keep these measures. So to keep yourself still going, your workplace where you need to go, there are workplaces like the factories where they have casual laborers. We are requesting them, instead of, for example, having a shift of 12 hours for 2,000 staff, then break it up, break up that 12 hours and let them work in 3 groups. Let one come in and work for 4 hours, another group comes and continues, another group. So you will have multiple people, they will still work.
Who will not be together in the same space.
Who will not be together in the same space. Okay. Because if they get infected anyway, then we will have to quarantine your entire staff.
Okay. Thank you very much for this information. Have you exhausted the institution?
No. Now let me, this is something very